friends, and welcome to my Rest Stop Conversations. Today, my guest is Mio Nunez. And Mio and I have known each other for, I think, over a decade or more now. We attend the same church, Eagle Rock Church in Pickerington, Ohio. And I want to just read out a little bit about Mio and the great things she does with our church, especially. So Mio has served on the praise and worship team for many years now. But in addition to that, she's also part of the media ministry. Mio is one of our go-to people, for media help, for conferences, church service, and all that. But in addition to that, Mio also takes great photographs. She's our experienced church photographer guru, and takes special pictures of, church events and, church members, especially during special occasions. But I've also interacted with Mio personally. We've done a couple of Bible studies together in the past. And also in 2017, Mio was the star of a play named Tyra. So in that play, I played her best friend, Tony. And since then, Mio has gone ahead and starred in other plays as well. Yes. So you can see how the breadth of Mio's giftings and how creative a person she is. So Mio, I'm so honored to have you today as my guest. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your taking time. I know this is the day after Thanksgiving, a time of rest and other things you could be doing, but I appreciate your spending time with me and with our guests today. So I'm going to start off by asking you to share who you are and how you would describe yourself to our guests.
Well, I'm first I think the most important thing I want to share first is that I'm a Christian and I follow the Lord Jesus, and I think that's really important because of him. I don't think anything else, would be possible. So that's like my main identity, that I am a daughter of the King. And so with that said, I also wanted to say that I'm very much an introvert. It's funny because people don't think that of me, but
we'll talk more
about one of those people. Yeah. But yes. But right now I'm just I would describe myself as someone that is hardworking, I have a heart for the people, especially the people that are hurting in this time or just hurting in general. I believe in wholeness, and that's one of the things that God has been talking to me about in my last few years. I've just been on this thing about this journey on wholeness. And so wholeness has been a very big part of my thing because I want to see people healed. So I would say that about myself. I am so big on just supporting people who, want to launch their ministries. That's how I've used my gift to help people get there, or to encourage people, or to motivate people in any way that I can help. I've learned, that you can't do things by yourself, that it's going to take the help of many people. But those are the many people that God has placed in our lives. So I just want to say that I would describe myself as someone that really is about seeing people be successful, seeing people working in their passion, in their ministry, putting themselves out there. I know starting is, I think, the hardest part, but once you get started, it's great. But that's how I would describe myself. I mean, I can go on, but I don't want to keep going on.
Okay. So you touched on something very important there about the ministry of helps. Most people know about the visible ministries, the ministries on the pulpit, the ministries that are visible, but you've just shared one aspect of yourself, which is helping other people, helping launch other people into ministry. And listening to you say that, I can say that from my observation and from interacting with you and watching you through the years, that that is one of your strong gifts. Um, I've noticed that you're someone who is consistent. So regardless of what's going on, you'll consistently show up. You're consistently, even in the background, helping the church achieve the church's mission and vision in whatever way they're asking you to do that. So I'll say that you described yourself very well there as someone who comes alongside other people to support their ministry. Um, so how would you say other people would describe you then?
I would say that they would probably say that I'm faithful, that I'm committed. Even if I don't really want to do it, I'll still do it out of commitment. They'll say that I'm compassionate, that I'm very creative, that I am encouraging,
Mhm.
and that I'm much troubleshooter. I don't know how to explain, like I don't know, but I'm one of those people that will, help people come up with ideas, solution, brainstorm. So I'm really good at just brainstorming. So people will probably say that about me.
Right,
And,
right.
and they'll say that I'm gifted, that's the word that everybody uses, gifted, but
Good.
that's
Yeah.
just a big loaded word. It's not very specific. It's so general, but they'll say that I'm gifted.
I think so. I think you're an all around, like I just shared when I was introducing you, in addition to the gift of helping others, is being creative and being broad. So technology, photography, creativity, praise worship, So I think that's appropriate that people will describe you that way. Okay. So I know you've been following my rest up conversations with other women and the rest up video series that are based on my new devotional, Times of Refreshing, Spiritual Rest Stops along life's journey. Along life's journey. And the reason I wrote that was that I found that many of us, including myself, that we could just be on this hamster's wheel of going and going, from day to day to day, and not pausing to rest, to truly rest. Even sometimes we think we're resting, but we're not because our minds are active. So I started
Right.
thinking, what are some of the ways we rest? And for me, the reason I wrote the devotional was I found that when I pause to study the Word of God and to renew my mind, to change my mindset and my thinking, that's when I find true rest. You know, so I'm happy that you are joining me today on this conversation about rest so that our viewers will learn how Mio rests and whether Mio even rests at all. Because I know there are people who find their rest,
Right.
even in the midst of busyness, they can still find rest. So I wanted to ask, um, have you ever felt like you needed to get off the hamster's wheel and just stop? Or are you one of those people who get their energy from being busy?
Well, I feel like I'm a little bit of both. It depends on the season, and the demand of my time. So when my demand time um, is high, yes, I want to get off the wheel.
Mhm.
Um, but when it's not a demand where I'm busy, but there's not a big demand, I definitely I just continue going.
Mhm.
Um, like when I had to play when I was doing these plays, it was not a season of demand, but I was able to keep going.
Mhm.
But my recent season that I've been walking in, it's definitely have been like, I need to stop. I need to get off this because it's not going anywhere.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yes, I would say it depends on the season
Okay.
for me.
Okay. So what you're saying is that you're in tune with what's going on in your life and when you need to go, because sometimes we need to go to complete a task. That when you need to go, you will stay on it, but you're in tune with knowing when you need to stop and get off the wheel.
Absolutely.
Good, good. So what does rest mean to you when you hear about spiritual rest, physical, mental rest? What comes to your mind?
Um, Rest is for me is refreshing. It's energy. It's peace. Um, it's trust.
Mhm.
Um, and is like what I like. It's quiet.
Mhm.
So like when it comes to the spiritual aspect, for me, when I'm at rest is when I like I said, in the season I've been walking, I that looks like total trust in the Lord, that He is in control, and that I am going to release that. Like I'm not going to take any more action towards this. You're going to do that on my behalf. So in my spiritual, at least the way I see it, in my spiritual is having that trust. And then with that trust, when you totally trust God is going to do something, then I feel that peace is ushered in that regard. So for the spiritual rest, that's how I would see it. For physical, I would look at it as um, I'm not a napper. So for me, napping is like, I'm more tired from trying to nap than actually napping. So I don't get any benefit from that. A lot of people say, ooh, 20 minutes and I'm recharged. I'm like, ooh, those 20 minutes that I tried to nap, I am more exhausted than, than refreshed. So, but I would say it looks like physically, I know it's going to sound, weird. So there's twofold. So one is walking. Like when I walk,
Okay.
because I'm not exerting a lot of pressure, walking for me is like rest. I don't know how to explain that, but it's rest because I'm letting my body, do something that it needs. And
Mhm.
so it's charging my physical
Yeah.
being, if that makes sense. Because when I
Yeah.
said that rest, I said energy. That's what I'm thinking. So as I'm walking, I feel the energy, and that's why when I pray, I walk.
I
I
know.
feel that energy when I like, I don't know. I'm a walker. When I pray, if you leave me and I'm standing, I will walk back and forth because I start getting my energy through that. So for me, that's when I feel rested. I
Mhm.
know it sounds weird. And then my 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 biggest challenge, okay, is sleep. So being able to sleep, so that would be my physical way of like, when it comes to resting
Mhm.
between walking and then sleeping, but true sleep, not the napping. Because for me, napping is what I do when I sleep at night.
Mhm.
When I do like a 3 hours, like, oh, I'm refreshed. I'm like, no, it's only 2 o'clock in the morning. Why? Why am I up?
Do you
But
think,
having that,
do you think that has something to do with being a creative person? Do you think it's having a creative mind?
it could be, and I think sometimes it's also um, because there's moments where it's consistent at certain times. I feel that that's a time of calling, that God is calling me to, set up the tower and pray. So when that happens, I'm like, Lord, tell me what you want so I can go to sleep.
Yeah.
Tell me,
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes creativity might be the reason why I can't go to sleep. That's why I've like started using sermons. I started playing sermons to have me focus on the word and not focus on my thoughts or any issues that I had during the day. I'm like, no, we're not gonna think about that on our way to bed. We're gonna focus on a sermon, and I feed my soul.
Mm.
So my soul at that time is when it starts sleeping. So right before I go to sleep, I feed my soul because I feel like that stills my soul, and I'm focusing on God right before I go. And then the thoughts that I have, I'm like, yes, Lord. Like it's more like a corrective thing. Like so that's been my strategy now to sleep at night is to listen to a message and just focus on the words. And I eventually won't finish the sermon, but I'll continue to listen to it in the next morning. And
Okay.
then mentally, man, I don't know if that shuts down ever. You know, always like this mind is like always thinking I'm on to the next thought. So
Yeah.
I'm one of those people that's constantly
Mhm.
like if someone talks to me, I already had like 1,000 thoughts and 1,000 ideas for whatever it is that you just told me. I just am that person. And so for me, the only time I find like the most mental rest is when I'm fully asleep. And like I said, I've tried melatonin, I've tried all kinds of stuff to stay asleep for like a good 8 hours. I have not been very successful, but that's been like, the thing. So that's, that's what I have to say about rest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I get what you mean about walking. They say
Right.
exercise releases those endorphins, those feel good hormones. And walking, there's something about being out in fresh air, and just being distracted by other things, taking your mind off of, whatever is going on. So I hear you there. I wanted to take you back to what you said about trust. That's interesting that you kind of equated trust with rest. Can you share more about that? Because trust is one of those things that our flesh does not know how to do. It's not something we can't will it up. We can't say, okay, let me make myself trust God. It's so antithetical to what we are as human beings, to just let go, trust God, and find the rest we need. So what are some of your practices? What are some things you do to kind of strengthen that trust in God?
Well, so I know I keep talking about these seasons, right? But in the last season that I'm actually walking now, it was very oppressive. It was very harsh, dark. So I got to I'm here working, but I wasn't refreshing. There was I would sleep, I wasn't refreshed. Everything that I was doing was not working. So that's when I said, okay, then this has to be a spiritual thing. So when things when I couldn't tell what it was, that's when I said, okay, this is a matter of a spiritual attack. So what I decided to do was, I'm going on the fast. I'm going to put my flesh on check, because I was so tired. I was afraid that I was going to act out on my flesh, and instead of letting the spirit, take over. So I decided that I'm just going to trust God, but it's hard to trust God. And that's why I said I got to fast. So I put myself on this fast. I've been on this fast for almost 2 months, but the fast has been geared to subjecting the flesh and letting the spirit be able to do what it needs to do, and letting God do what he needs to do on my behalf. So by putting myself in fast, I said, God, I trust you. And I'm not going to do anything in regards to this situation, because this is a spiritual matter. You need to intervene, because this person or this particular situation is very toxic, is very hurtful, but I'm seeing it as a spiritual attack, and I can't win this fight if you are not before me. And so I decided that by fasting and putting my flesh on check, that meant that I had to spend more time in the Word. I had to spend more time with God. And in doing so, that created, like I said, once you choose to trust, because it's a choice. When you choose to trust God, that means that you're releasing any control of it. And that's really hard for us to do. I would say that for sure. But trusting it, and in that trust, I was like, as I trust you, I want you to also increase my faith. So I can continue to carry this on until the situation that I see before me is handled.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but that was my practical, in this season, I think that was my biggest weapon. Fasting, praying, because I know I didn't touch upon prayer, but I did pray. The situation called for constant prayer. Okay, when I'm all day only praying about one thing, that's why I'm like, no, that means that I needed to stop worrying. I needed to stop trying to take control, because as I was trying to find ways to take control, I was losing control. And I was like, nope, I need to just subject myself to the Lord and let him handle it. This is why we have a creator. This is why we have God. This is why he came, so that he can help us. This is why he's my father. And so, I'm not going to go into my father issues, but learning to trust God to be my father, and that he's going to protect me and see me out of this. That's, I don't know if that helps, but
yeah, that's very helpful.
That's my practical way.
Yeah, that's very helpful. So many things you said there, so profound. You can't trust who you don't know, right? For you to trust a person, for you to
Right.
trust in something, you have to know who you're trusting and why you're trusting them. And what better way to trust God than to get to know Him through His Word? So that was, yeah, that was very profound. Something else you said, this is what I do. I have to catch myself when I'm worrying about something to say, rather than use this brain space to worry, why don't you use that same space to pray? You know, Instead of, replace the worry with prayer, because it's a mental thing anyway. So we can make that choice. You said something about choice, about choosing to trust. We can
Right.
choose to replace our thoughts, the things we're thinking about. Yeah. So you said so many profound things. Have you always been this way? Have you always known how to rest?
I would say that I would say I'm the worst person to go to when it comes to rest. I know I've been yelled at, Mio, you're doing too much. I know many people have said, Mio, you're always busy. When do you find time to rest? And I my intentions has been Saturday mornings to be, rested. But sometimes, like I said, it depends on the season and it depends where I'm at, here in my mind, like mentally where I'm at, where in doing more and helping others, I feel rested, like I have designated time for rest, but in doing more and helping other, when I see people, you know, healed, when I see people walking out stuff, that gives me energy too. You know what I mean? So it's like I can rest, but I also need to be active.
Mhm.
So I can't always just stay chilling, because I feel like idleness can be a problem, at least for some people. And I would say there are times when that can be an issue for me. So
Mhm.
what I've done is try to find ways to deal with that idleness. That's why I'm constantly busy or constantly helping somebody or serving here, serving there, because it brings me joy. It brings me peace. It brings me, there's that satisfaction that I'm activating the calling that God has put in my heart. So that's what that's become like a resting for me.
Wow.
But when I feel that it's a lot, I'll take either a day off from work. Sometimes you got to do that. Those are practical things. And when I feel like I'm having a lot of warfare up here, and it's weighing me down, I definitely take the time to shut everything off, turn everything off, and we're just gonna like be quiet and be still before the Lord and let Him just pour, because that's when I know I've just overdid it, you
Mhm.
know, so, but those are the ways that I kind of like manage that and rest. But I really like I said, I struggle with sleep, um, and I'm always thinking about the next project, or my mind would be like, ooh, this would be great, this would be great, and then I have so many ideas, and no one like is awake for me to like tell them all this stuff, like, what do you think about this? And so my mind is constantly working, but like I said, I intentionally try to, when I get to a place, I kind of have triggers, if that makes sense. There's triggers. And when
Mhm.
I start feeling that trigger, like writing up that trigger, I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, shut it down, TV off, go upstairs early, go to bed early,
Yeah.
be still before the Lord,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like how it just about, it's a matter of knowing when,
Yeah.
when I'm feeling tired,
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
Okay, Neil, stop.
Yeah.
It's okay to stop. It's
Yeah.
okay to say no to people. Just chill and just relax,
Yeah.
in the physical, mental, and even in the spiritual, way.
We have come to the end of part one of my conversation with Mio Nunez. I have been blessed, and I'm sure you have as well. Now, stay tuned for part two of our conversation.